Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Supratik Ghatak. I head the business development at Blazeclan Technologies. We are a completely cloud-focused company specializing on AWS, and our customers include large enterprises as well as startups who are focused completely on technology, including some which are incubated in IITs. So we understand AWS, and the reason why we wanted to do this session and AWS kind of gave us these opportunities to figure out all throughout the day, you as technology leaders of various enterprises or large-scale startups are figuring out what are the services that are there for you to utilize on AWS. But how do you start using them? So I'm thankful to Akhilesh to kind of show me the pathway when he came over and showed how he started off small and later on moved into large implementations. So my story out here is to tell you, because I, as part of my role, go and spend a lot of time talking to technology leaders like you and understand the pressures that you are with a lot of cloud focus coming in. Your management is behind you to start using cloud. There's a lot of peer pressure as well. So where is cloud going to take you in an enterprise, and what are the immediate steps that you could take to move towards cloud? So I stand here to tell you that story, and I promise to share only the truth, but nothing but the truth. How would you know anyways, right? Do you know, just a general knowledge question, do you know the only functional lie detector in the world? Just a general knowledge question. The guy answering it correctly gets a prize. Which is the only functional lie detector in the world? It's the wife. Correct. So you get a prize. Go to the Blazeclan booth and find that prize for you. Seriously. So yes, here starts our journey for the CIOs and the technology leaders to figure out what there is for cloud to happen. So these are the numbers that are being thrown out. 5% organizations are already moving to cloud. People have started to migrate onto the cloud. There's a lot of enterprise focus on cloud. My management team is behind me to look at cloud. Every magazine that I subscribe to is talking about cloud. Cloud talks me to tell me to move my enterprise applications, my solutions, my backup, my DR. So where am I as a CIO going to decide what is my starting point? Pain points. Why cloud? Why do I need to go to cloud in the first place? Is it necessary to go to the cloud? Can all my solutions go to the cloud? These are the questions that ring in your mind. And that is the specific story that I want to share with you, whether everything that you have as an enterprise, as a typical enterprise solution, can go to the cloud. And believe me, the answer is no. And as we go through this slide, I'll uncover those kind of applications, those workloads that I suggest as part of someone who understands AWS, you shouldn't look at moving to the cloud immediately. So what are the advantages of clouds? Kind of cliched today, but we works to learn more of it. It helps you to reduce your infrastructure services, your infrastructure costs, capex free. It gives you a lot of flexibility, a lot of scalability. So Akhilesh kind of mentioned how scalable he's moving 60 plus libraries using 1,000 rupees each. So he's able to scale up without the procurement and the hassles of procuring large amount of infrastructure and costs associated with it. Obviously, the impact of immediate kind of cloud offerings. But what is there for you as a CIO to look at, and what are the pressure points for you as a CIO to immediately focus on and look at in terms of the cloud? See, your questions immediately start in these manners. What do you start using with the cloud? How can cloud derive considerable cost and agility benefits for me? Immediately. I want things immediate. My management wants my answers immediately. My management wants results quickly. What are the factors that can get me the benefits or the ROI that I put into cloud immediately? And does cloud need a lot of changes? Does my infrastructure architect suppose a demo website, a demo brochure, or demo workload to showcase it to a client? Or there's a new requirement for some of these workloads that, okay, I want an extension quickly, give me some extension quickly. There's a web application that I need to figure out immediately. These are the areas that you start figuring out where do you find that space in your already in-house infrastructure. You go back to IT, you shift around, you figure out where do I give this workload. A very important point for you to start using the cloud. Because you have nothing to lose, to be honest. You started, it's a pre-sales activity, it's a marketing activity, it's a step for you to figure out how cloud works. It's an immediate step that you could take, get the team the access to the AWS services that he needs, and immediately you could see your ROIs coming through. It doesn't take a while, it just takes a click of a few buttons to move to the AWS services. You don't need that hassles of figuring out where are your speeds. And AWS does provide a free tier as well as part of evaluating the services. Why not use that as well? What else? Why migrate? What else can I think of in terms of migration? And this is obviously not to do with web applications or existing workloads. How about greenfield applications? How about large loads that your development team has been thinking for long to do, but your budget constraint as an IT guy has kept you from actually implementing it off the ground? Think about the cloud as your starting point for these greenfield applications. Think of those immediate fancy ideas that your marketing team had, or that finance team that came and hassled you for some tax associated workloads that he wanted. So your application team or your application development team or your dev team is ready to do it, but you had constraints of space, immediate requirements of services, procuring licenses, getting it to your development team. All this was a problem, not anymore. See, all throughout the day, you have been seeing a lot of services on AWS. You saw the support for it, both in terms of hardware and licensing. So the greenfield applications fitted the bill immediately. More reasons to migrate. What are the typical kind of services that I would think of migrating apart from greenfield applications? Because greenfield obviously doesn't come every day, right? You'll have this once in a while. You might have to figure out how to procure that particular solution or supply it to your development team. What else could I think of migration? Test and development applications. And this is a particular scenario in which I see a lot of enterprises using the cloud benefits. So when think of those immediate workloads that you need to test or develop, and probably you did not have an infrastructure as large to fit in a mass for Easter. So these are some things which are heavy in terms of budgets as well as your requirements. You do not have that immediate capacity to run your test and development applications and go up to the scale that you would like. The cloud could be a great friend to your development and test teams and even your ops teams in terms of getting to them these facilities, in terms of running those huge test loads. You can scale up to whatever figure you want to and then scale down with just a monthly billing or a per hour billing on AWS. Immediate results and cost benefits that you could show back to your management. So as I promised, I would not only share what to migrate, but very honestly share what not to migrate. And this is an honest opinion in terms of talking to a lot of enterprises and our understanding of AWS over the last few years. See here the ones. Don't look at migrating kind of legacy, monolithic, horizontal applications that you have been having for years. Don't look to migrate them immediately. That's my suggestion to you. These are supported, the support could be immediate, but this would take a lot of time in terms of re-architecting, reorganizing it, and getting it to the cloud, and might not give you that ROI that you're looking for. Don't put homegrown CRMs or complex kind of automated or very sophisticated applications that are specific to your industry or your organization. These are complex ones. They have added over the years. There's a new layer over it over and over again. So you might like to take some time to understand how that application can change in terms of its architecture before taking the step to AWS. Licensing and compatibility. So AWS, you've seen through the day how licenses are supported. So today you can run up a zip up a Microsoft instance, as Bikram mentioned, in a matter of minutes along with the licenses per hour. There are a lot of other licenses, including enterprise applications and licensings which are supported. So you could look at them, but there are some which are not supported yet. So you should obviously validate that licensing support that is there already and then try and move it. So what should I look to? And probably I want to overall move it to the cloud someday. So my suggestion in terms of how to take that roadmap in these 4 steps. Plan to take it small and steady steps. So as Akhilesh, as he's been using it, he knows it, he himself as a customer said, take those small steps. Specifically as an enterprise, as a large grown enterprise where you have a lot of workloads, this is the way to move. You should take those small steps, migrate, use the low-hanging fruits, the immediate steps to move your applications, and then take those big loads of monolithic and bigger workloads onto AWS. What else could I migrate? I'm very convinced through AWS, what else could I migrate? What could be my immediate turnovers in terms of using a cloud? Next steps. So remember the time when your CFOs got this letter nicely hand printed or printed from the IT department, income tax department, and it says, pull out the data from 2006 when you did a transaction with so much, to a customer who is in, say, UK. And you go back to running back to your team and figure out that backup was stored in those old tape backups that were lying in your vendor's storeroom. And we had a case when a similar situation arrived. What they heard from the vendor was there was fungus on the tape. Okay, so I mean, how do you tackle that situation? It's a complex situation. We have to got to recover the data, and you're figuring out that the tapes that you had stored and paid your vendor for has got fungus to it after paying so much. Look at the cloud. Look at AWS. AWS is an excellent solution for warm and cold backups. There are a lot of reference architectures available in terms of using immediate backups and disaster recovery on the cloud. And because now the regions are spread across most continents today, you have the recovery points at very short distances, and there are less latencies in terms of getting your backups up. We have seen situations when we have put out disaster recovery backup solutions in less than 3 minutes. It's unthinkable. Large organizations kind of take this up as a huge first step to moving to the AWS platform. It's an immediate no-brainer because it gives you that parameters of saving costs and also relying on compliance. So the S3 backups, the cloud formation backups, or the S3 buckets for that matter give you a lot of, or storage gateways for that matter give you a lot of flexibility of using AWS specific services to put warm and cold backups in place, and always disaster recovery, whether you're using an in-house combination of an in-house database server and the AWS, or using multi-region AWS services. And last but not the least, you would obviously want that heart and soul to move to the AWS cloud and look at some savings there. Obviously, we talked about SAP and certifications around SAP and how it is supported. So I want to talk about some of the certification and support that is available today. Look at migrating it, obviously. So we've seen a customer come and talk how SAP is being utilized on the cloud. Obviously, it's a step for you. Plan it out. These are support parameters that you have. The SAP HANA combination is a brilliant combination, according to me, if you want to start off and use the SAP's new features moving ahead. What else is supported, and what else should you start looking at in terms of migrating on the cloud? Look at the various possibilities of your workloads which are supporting against various other kind of technologies or licensing parameters. So you have support today for Microsoft, you have support today for IBM workloads, you have support for Red Hat, you have support for Citrix, you have Adobe, and various other flavors of Linux and others. So today, licensing across the board is supported in AWS, which gives you the ease of moving enterprise workloads, whether it be some SAP application, whether it be Oracle-based product, or whether it be something to do with Adobe or Microsoft. So there's a lot of flexibility around. Plan it out. How do you do it? We'll come to the next session. But before that, let's look at the challenges as an organization, as an enterprise. My challenges of moving to the cloud or to AWS in those quick steps. Now, probably I've got to figure out, some of you were clicking pictures of the slides while it was happening. I'll probably share it out. You'll get the links to it once you have attended it. So in terms of the challenges, what should I look at and what should I expect as an enterprise? Here they are. Identifying the applications best fit to take advantage of the cloud, which is scalability, adaptability, and obviously availability. How should you adapt to it? Identify with your cost parameters coming. So as an enterprise, you should not expect those cloud returns immediately until unless you do those short runs of, say, a demo POC or a demo greenfield application or a workload that you want to migrate immediately. Moving your large enterprise workloads will take that time, will take that domain, but you will see those benefits as those cloud workloads increase. This brings us to the cloud migration approach we follow at Blazeclan, when we kind of emphasize on it being practiced across the board, whatever industry, whatever enterprise you're coming from. This is an approach that we kind of profess and we ask you to follow. And we're happy to talk to you about it in terms of how to specifically look at it in your organization. If it's something to do with compliance, it has something to do with your associated concerns, we are happy to discuss that. But here's broadly the cloud migration approach that we follow. It comes in 3 basic steps. First, analyze or plan. Second, deploy. And third, optimize. And why optimize? Why do you need the optimizing phase and the important third phase to the planning and the deployment phase? It's excellently important because you have to get those ROIs back from the cloud migration. You have to show your management those ROIs that you have brought about by migration. So just putting a lot of workloads onto the cloud and expecting ROIs to come from it should not be your immediate priority. You should look at optimizing it. How you could optimize? There's some pointers around it. So you should plan to take it in an approached manner, and the first steps move in this fashion. So you start with the assessment around your application portfolio or your workloads. At Blazeclan, we follow a phase-wise approach in which we take out a progression report, if you like, in which we kind of tick those parameters in which we feel these are the immediate workloads that you should put forward, and these are the workloads that you should hold for later. So you kind of analyzing which are your quick steps to migration and figure out which are your later next steps. Data application, how does your data flow? So, I mean, obviously, as Tata said, they wanted to use Oracle, and they had a lot of facilities on Oracle already available on AWS. There's a lot of support available. So how do you use your data application and ensure that the data continuity or a business continuity is still remaining, and how to plan that approach? Second, leverage the cloud architecture, optimize the cloud setup. How do you leverage cloud architecture? Obviously, Amazon's done a huge amount of efforts in putting up a lot of reference architecture. There are a lot of self-serve motives in which you can use those architectures to migrate your solution to the cloud using your existing architecture bits or your solutions. So we kind of understand and analyze based on your already existing architecture and the architecture that should fit the AWS cloud much better, and analyze your steps towards migration. Cloud assessment, these are important steps. Again, an IT leader in an organization, you have to look at the financial assessment, the security and compliance assessments. So, I mean, a lot of leaders that I talked to today, they kind of put their concerns. How secure is cloud? Is it good? I mean, I have compliance. I am into pharmacy. I'm into clinical research. Does it fit that bill of security? What if my data goes out? I'm into insurance. So my take on it, if you're having those questions, so are we at Blazeclan and AWS. We obviously want to work with you and obviously analyze those concerns and assay those concerns. So come to us, talk to us as what are these security standards that you need, and whether it fits your industry or not. So today, Amazon permits most security compliances to be existing, and though we are happy to share those certifications which are there already on the website. Technical and functional assessment. So obviously, these are the kind of matchmakers of figuring out what your technologies are currently existing. You don't want to do an entire churn out or putting in new technology and using a lot of time in terms of churning out your application-specific technology. So is there a technical map-up with already existing solution, or you need to do a lot of re-architecting, a lot of re-functional testing or movements? So that is something that you should look at immediately. Application mapping in terms of dependency tree and cloud suitability. So right now my applications are there, it's running fine on I'm keeping my job running, my application loads are running, the light bulbs are on. What do I need to do in terms of mapping the same requirements moving to the cloud? How do I do that? Are they fitting the bill? It's kind of doing a checklist parameter against which you should think of migrating towards the cloud. Next big steps, identifying the cloud vendor. Obviously, AWS is there to provide the services, but we have to figure out the right kind of vendor. For them, it was an SAP partner who came and did it. You have to look for the right vendor who understands the technology and understands your workloads. Move into those domains of understanding not only technology, but your architectural level as well. Migrating product licenses. So Bikram spoke at length about how you could carry your licenses or buy licenses by the hour. You should look at both these options and figure out what is the best methodology for you to use. The definition of success criteria. So for a lot of companies, obviously cloud makes sense in terms of financial benefits, the immediate ROIs, the immediate scalability. We have found companies, we have used it, who are in the fright of having their workloads being overutilized. And that is why they want to figure out whether the cloud makes sense or not. So these are ways and thought processes as what is the outcome that you're looking for from the cloud and whether the cloud bill fits it or not. Plan with a roadmap, and that is what we are trying to tell you out here. It's a roadmap. You have to figure out those immediate steps and your low-hanging fruits and move as you move ahead into your larger loads. Whether you use a software as a service, platform as a service, or an infrastructure as a service, it's all dependent on these parameters, and you should look carefully as a IT leader in a company. You will look carefully through these parameters before taking your jump towards your workload migrating to cloud. So Sean Norris is out here from support team. He's the one who's be representing the SLA parameters. He's a happy man anyways. He doesn't have a lot of complaints. So it's a service level agreement that you associate. So Amazon today provides a lot of high availability zones and high availability in terms of service availability. So you should look at these parameters while migrating and take immediate steps of understanding what are your SLAs, what are your data portability, what are your long-term costs, user management. So Amazon provides extensive user management through its console and other parameters. Scalability and platform management and security, obviously specific to your organization, your industry, or your compliance. Now, how do you plan for it? You start doing your assessment around WAN traffic. So obviously, you have multiple data points, multiple positions of your company spread across various locations. Obviously, as an enterprise, you can stop that. So how do you analyze those WAN traffics and build around it is something that you should look at. Data security and management, legacy application integration, security and compliance. So these are immediate planning phases or steps that you should look at in terms of understanding the AWS compatibility. A lot of it is compatible. As you move ahead, you'll find most workloads that you're using today, and I showed in the previous slides, a lot of licensing and security concerns are being supported today. Deploying the actual migration, how do you do it? First, the data migration phase, because that is the immediate step that you want to take out, so that to assay your kind of continuity of your business and to figure out how your data is being migrated and whether it's being working in the right phases or not. So migrate file server system, automated scripts for migration. There is a backup and tape drives, which you can use in import and export manner, where physical backup tapes or backup drives are sent to AWS availability zones, and they are ported, and then they are kind of mapped to your instances and then destroyed in a proper manner or returned back to you after proper formatting. Evaluate the options to move large sets of data to the cloud using the AWS import-export. So these are hard files that you could send to various hard disks or various data sets that you could migrate, send them in batches, and then it's ported there. Or you could use a high latency or a low latency bandwidth connectivity to start using to migrate your data. Evaluate options to move larger sets of data to the cloud, backups and tape drives, automated scripts for migration, migrate file server systems, something that your application data migration will also replicate. These are the next steps. Profile the various storage options available in a vendor cloud, plan for uploading data in batches, analyze your data sets and databases. Important step of evaluating RDBMS options in the cloud. So Amazon RDBS today supports major databases, relational databases, and it's an excellent support. Start using it from day one rather than having to wait for those licensing or your database servers coming up in later stages. Ensure data encryption for security. So Amazon AWS provides those facilities. You could use a Cloud Connect if you have those kind of security concerns to allay your data transformation or migration. The application migration, so you could do two ways. You could forklift your status application directly onto the cloud and then use your stateful components and make them stateless. Excellent example of how you could start using stateless applications in a stateless form rather. Decompose relational databases to make it more and more efficient, and RDS supports those kind of movements to use them in better manner. So where are those use cases? Where are those enterprises which have started to use cloud? What is being used on cloud? So we've been hearing some customer stories. And through my presentation, you would like to know what are the immediate steps that some customers have taken in terms of using cloud. Here's one. Web application migration. So I talked about how web applications could use a lot of cloud in terms of being the most utilized or the most immediate ROI facilities on cloud. So migration of an e-commerce website with mobile extension to create property inventory reports and commercial and non-commercial properties. This is a customer which manages a lot of real estate properties, and they have audit teams who go and audit these properties every month or on a relatively regular manner. So earlier there used to be paper and pen-based kind of audits, and it took them 7 days to put that back into the web application to figure out what were the audit results. Today they're using extensions of web applications hosted again on the AWS to their mobile phones across a cross platform. So the agents can use their own cell phones or tablets to use that web application in a thin client and put back those audit results immediately without having to wait for that web application to be stored. An enterprise which has started to use it and using AWS for it. Immediate results. Batch processing, app migration, log analysis and report generations with the motive of faster time to processing. So there's a lot of log analytics, a lot of MIS reporting that you as technology folks or technology leaders in the company are required to send to your management or to your business units. So it obviously needs a lot of processing power, a lot of hardware, a lot of requirements around licensing costs. This is a company which started to use AWS services, and we recommend these services to you to start using those processing powers on an AWS platform. Backend process workflow for app migration of, this is another large company, a fairly large insurance company in India, one of the largest, I must say. So they had their employees spread across 120 towns in India, 4,000 to 5,000 employees. They wanted to maintain their data, their talent management system in terms of evaluate their performance and their appraisals. Although it being an insurance company, they started to use AWS. It's not a core field, it's not their core domain of customer data, but they're using a web application which was necessary for the HR team and the compliance team to monitor. Excellent use case. How they have started to use it and immediate benefits. They use those instances by the time because it's only an appraisal cycle during certain times of the month or certain quarters of the year, and then they shut it down, bring it to a low latency level where they're not paying almost anything. 10 trends in enterprise application migration. I'll just quickly run through. I want to keep some time for Q&A. Storage, web service, email, these are the stuff that is moving. So if you relate to whatever I said over the last few slides, you will relate to it. And these are next already, or these are the workloads that are already in the cloud. Storage is obviously the biggest pie, and you saw that with the case study that was there in the earlier presentation. And obviously email. This is a workload that you should also look at. I probably might have missed mentioning, and so this is an immediate step. Amazon Web Services does provide these services immediately. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to step back now and make a big announcement today. We are launching our first cloud-based analysis log analysis product called Cloudlytics, completely built and serviced on AWS. This allows you to analyze your S3 bucket object logs and your CloudFront or CDN logs. Extremely useful if you're an ISV or a aggregator of content and sharing content across the globe or to a specific geography or to a specific demographic segment. This is a missing element which we are trying to fill in terms of you understanding your customer points. Where are my customers using my content? Where are my customers failing to use my content? Where are my downloads failing? Where are my immediate customers of this particular content? So we allow you a SaaS-based solution called Cloudlytics today. Go to www.cloudlytics.com, whereby you will be able to analyze this at the click of a button. Extremely useful tool if you're using a lot of workloads which are spread across customers in various geographies or various demographics. I request you to visit our stall in the partner booth to come and showcase and see a demo of it, or actually register yourself for a demo. The next solution that we think is a lot beneficial for enterprises and something that we are building on today is a web-based load and stress test tool. This will allow you the compliance and the ease of using a web-based solution to do those huge dev and test loads that you were trying to do with already capable hardware or hardware procured or hardware rented out. Today you can run them on AWS, you can analyze them, you can see those reports immediately, whatever test loads you want to run. Taking again a sample case study of how an enterprise took their steps towards migration and how it really happens in an enterprise. This is that customer that we want to talk to you about, Large BFSI insurance company in India. They're doing great stuff. They have 3 workloads today on the cloud. One of them is the digital marketing campaign. So some completely focused on end customer. It's a B2C company, obviously looking at selling general and life insurance. They want to reach out, again, a forward-looking insurance company. They want to reach out through digital and social media to a lot of customers, analyze them and get them as consumers. This is the workload that they had to run in terms of not only seasonal requirements across multiple products, as well as things like such as IPL. So the IPL, the search is high, how they could connect to their customers following IPL, how could they take benefits of them and acquiring new customers. They have this flexibility using AWS to scale up and scale down as per the needs and gives them extreme flexibility and ROIs in terms of usages of cloud. Challenges, rapid deployment. They wanted to deploy it as fast as possible. Extremely one more use case why cloud is there and can be used in matter of weeks in which your workload can be migrated. Security, application deals with sensitive data. Obviously, it's an insurance company. There are compliances around it. They face those challenges and they were able to overcome that with our help. Application usage peaks between November and March. I told you those seasonal surges, Diwali, IPL, these kind of seasons. We provided them solution in an agile development way. The Amazon Web Services came to use. A lot of them were used, pre-built solutions that we have. I talked to you about 2 of them already in terms of web load and the analysis tool. And there are a lot of other tools in backup and DR that we also provide, which gets the customer quicker to the AWS cloud. Deployment using open source tools to save costs. A lot of it is already supported on AWS, and that's why it makes even sense to use them. Advantages, as I talked to you, low-cost solution, pre-built solution, open source, and quick turnaround. Any questions related to any migration, any support, anything that you want to know of migration in terms of what AWS provides and how quickly you could get to?
If there are no questions, we would assume that everybody is happy to move on to cloud. Yes, please.
Yeah, I wanted to know if we have a complicated architecture in terms of a lot of servers talking to each other. And if we kind of want to move them to AWS, I mean, how easy it is to kind of get it tested. For example, in our setup, like there are say 50 odd servers, and most of them are talking to each other with firewalls open between them to send and receive files and all such things. So how do we migrate it, and what approach can we adopt?
So on AWS, as Supratik mentioned, and as we saw in the previous case studies as well, you start small, right? So you start moving smaller applications or bits of your workloads onto cloud one by one, right? To ensure that the security is in place, right? There's a concept called as VPC or Virtual Private Cloud, which is nothing but an extended topology of your VPN on AWS, right? So you could basically create your own subnets, which would map to the IP addresses of the subnets that you have on your, LAN environment, right? And then you could create a secure VPN tunnel between your LAN and your cloud deployments to ensure that it's totally secure. But idea is to start small, start in a secured way, in the way that you are already comfortable with with your already existing network topology, and then grow as in how you could get in touch with partners who could help you with doing the integration. So the partners could charge you based on for their consultancy or for their expertise provided to you, right? And you could also do it yourself in case you have an internal IT team which could do that for you.
So typically integration time frames, if we look at, I showcased that case study from that insurance company. If you look at decent enough workloads, it doesn't take more than certain weeks to integrate. In terms of data migration, I suggest you look up the AWS website and search for import-export to get the exact pricing.
I hope that answers your question.
Last question, please. We are running out of time. Last question, please.
Yeah, I have 2 things which I would like to know. One thing is, suppose like I start small and after some time my business pick up and I want to host it on my own. After that I can afford. Okay, so what is the way of deboarding from Amazon AWS to say my own infrastructure?
Sure.
Okay.
That is the first question. The second question is, though we are saying there is no initial investment,
Sure.
I see some initial investment in terms of migration. So if you can take some typical test case which you had shown us,
Yes.
and just give me some figure like how much time it took, how much effort it took for migration.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah, thanks.
So to start with the first question, which is how do I move back from my from AWS onto my say,
On-premise.
local on-premise servers, right? So the advantage with AWS is that till the time you are using EC2, ELB, and all those standard compute services, right, there is no lock-in per se, right? So you could easily migrate your applications out of AWS and put it back onto your on-premise data centers, right? AWS supports Linux operating systems, a range of Linux operating systems, and also Windows operating systems, right? With Linux, you could, it's easy to just copy your existing applications, replicate the configuration on your local environment, and start using your local environment. For Windows, you could use an VM import export, wherein you can actually export a virtual machine out of Windows and then deploy that virtual machine onto your local premise. So it could be that easy depending on the type of services that you are using on AWS, right? So if you use RDS, yes, there would be some cost and some effort required when you want to export the data back onto, say, a non-managed database that you would be maintaining by your own, right? So, I mean, it depends on the kind of services that you use on AWS, right? That is the answer to the first question. The second question again was about the cost for migration and the time that it takes to migrate, right? So, we have had a scenario in the past where we had moved a huge, download infrastructure from our on-premises, our customers' on-premises data center onto AWS, right? So, just to give you a background of the load that we are talking about. So the load was from from a large engineering company which just acquired a product company or software product company to help their end users do certain drawings and designs, right? So this customer had around 300 versions of softwares in different languages for different operating systems. There were free versions, there were paid versions. So there were around 280 to 300 different sets of files which were supposed to be migrated. The number of files were still okay because they added up to less than a few GBs, right? But for them, the challenge was that this software was apparently very popular both in in North America, in Europe, and in Southeast Asia. To give you the numbers, the downloads that the software was seeing across the globe was around 1.5 million a year, right? That added up to 15 million to 18 million downloads a year, right? When the company purchased the software or the product from the other company, they had a mandate to move it in less than 80 days, less than 30 days, 28 days. Right? So we helped them do all this migration, set up the infrastructure to support 15 million downloads a year in less than a month's time. Right? So we have done such large movements of data and large movements of setting up infrastructure in less than a month's time. And there could be use cases wherein, using import export, you could practically transfer TBs of data, right? In a few days, in a matter of few days, in less than a week, your data would be up and running on the cloud.
So in terms of total cost benefits that you talked about, where you obviously you're spending some time in your migration and your data integration parameters. So this company, this case study that I was talking about, they are paying less than 1/3 they were required to spend on that infrastructure on AWS. It's a huge cost saving.
Right. So yes, if you have huge sets of data, the migration would involve some cost. Migration would not be immediate. I mean, it's not a switch on and switch off thing. You'll have to spend at least a week's time to ensure that all the data is there, and there would be some cutover period in terms of production data, etc. Right. So all those things need to be taken care of. But the investments, the ROIs that you get in return of the investment that you make initially are I mean, they are too good. Right.
Sorry, because of the lack of time, we will not be able to take any more questions, but we are available here as well as at a booth in the partner exhibition. Happy to take any questions offline. You've been an amazing audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.